Greetings and welcome. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am your host. I am a bass player and songwriter from the Jam City, Dayton, Ohio. My guest on this episode is Los Angeles-based comedian LeeAnn Tooker. I did not want her to be funny on this episode because comedians should be paid for being funny, but I don't think she can help it. She's just a funny person, a lovely person, and you are going to love to meet her on this episode of the You Could Be My Aramis podcast. What drives someone to make comedy? How is LeeAnn's healing journey contributing to her art? You will learn these things in this conversation. Let's go. Hey there, LeeAnn.
Hello.
I'd like you to introduce yourself to the listeners because I have met you in person, but they have not. Perhaps they have not.
She is short. She is sassy. She is LeeAnn Tooker. Hi, I'm a comedian, sometime actress, sometime writer. California, not California born, but currently that's my home.
All around interesting person. Well, when I was out there, I noticed that there's a lot of people who are not from Los Angeles that happen to have migrated there. Where are you from originally, if you don't mind me asking?
I was raised in Texas, in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Like Beyonce. I mean, there's so many other similarities.
Right. Well, she chose the East Coast. You've chosen the West Coast.
Well, I needed the sunshine. But I knew when I was little, I was like, LA or New York, like, I've got to get out of here. I'm big city girl or whatever. And then I visited New York once and there was like way not enough sunshine, with the buildings and everything. And I was like, all right, I guess it's California.
I can understand that. So I've only had one comedian on. I don't even remember what I asked him. So this is probably going to be me asking things that people always ask you. How did you get started making comedy? That's such a cliche question.
Well, I knew like really early on that I wanted to perform in some capacity, like as a little kid, always, trying to perform. I thought it was going to be like, at first I thought it was going to be dance and I was going to be a, big dancing star. There is somewhat of a window on that in terms of age and whatnot. And, so then that sort of morphed into, well, maybe I could do like a J-Lo, Britney kind of thing, where it's heavy on the dancing and a little bit of auto tune and I'll be okay, And then I thought, well, and this is like over years. This is not like within 1 year of my life, over the course of time. And then I thought that, no, I really wanted to go into acting and I got my theater degree. And during all of these things, not like all the time, but there were several instances over the course of that where people would say, I think you'd be good at stand-up comedy. And I was like, whoa, no, like that is scary. And, and they're like, you're funny. Well, yeah, when I'm not on the spot to be funny. If I'm not funny, nobody goes, hey, you suck. You know what I mean? I was at a party. I was just talking to someone. So I was always like, no, that's very cool. And I love stand-up. I love comedy. And, and I am like a funny person in life. But I didn't think that was something that I would do. And then I moved out here to LA to pursue the acting. And I was taking this acting class from this very cool chick. We became friends. And at the end of the class, she was like, you're great, but I really feel like you should try stand up. And so when some chick in LA said it, I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I took like a class, sort of easing into it. No stakes, low stakes, play it off like, I was just trying to find something to do with my time. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have to tell anyone like, I want to be good at this. I was just like, yeah, just checking it out, And then the first time that I went up and I got laughs, I was like, I found it, my thing, And so here I am in a studio apartment in LA, living the dream in the corner of my kitchen presently.
Is it still scary?
No, not like it is when you don't know what you're doing. And, not scary. There are times where my ego's more involved than it should be. And so there's something in me that I want to do well tonight. I want to, but I'm I'm shedding some of that, which I think is good for ultimately for my comedy, because I have to care less about what you guys think to be able to, find the funny. So the pandemic kind of helped with that, oddly. And, like a lot of, woo woo self healing like we do out here in LA. But so.
How long have you been at it, the stand-up comedy?
The very first time that I performed on a stage was December of 2008.
Oh, so a while.
But then like 2009, I still, I wasn't, some people, they go on stage one time and they're like, well, there you have it. I'm a comedian. And they're going around town like, hi, I'm a comedian. And I was like, no, no, no. They'd be like, did you know LeeAnn's a comedian? I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Just trying some things out, just checking it out. Like I didn't go up very much in 2009. And, I would say that things got real like 2010 is when I started wanting to go up very frequently. And, before I was still kind of controlling it. I'll go this many times a month or whatever, And then 2010, I guess I sort of started getting with the program. And now it goes like this a little bit. In the beginning, you got to say yes to everything because you have to have the stage time. It's the only way that you're going to get better. It's not to say that you actually, you should always be going up for sure. But in the very beginning, I just sort of trained myself to always say yes. Because if I give myself any time to think about it, I might talk myself out of it, or you know what I mean? So I just got real accustomed to saying yes. And then after like 9 years of yesing every gig, am I allowed to curse on here?
You are. I'll edit it, but don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'll watch it.
No, say what you want. That's what the edit button's for.
I lost my train of thought now because I thought I ruined the show with the curse.
You did not. Yeah, I do keep it PG, but I don't like to censor people, so I'll just do it. I mean, I don't like people to censor themselves because it takes you out of your train of thought.
Yes, well, that's what just happened. Yep. Sorry, I don't.
No worries. Let's recenter. I really respect your art and your creativity and your art form. Not just you, LeeAnn, but
right.
the comedians as a whole. Because I look at you people and I'm like, I can never do that. I feel like a lot of people that enjoy comedy as an art form maybe don't think about how much work that professional people put into it. So I'd like to talk about your process for a bit. How do you begin to prepare to gather material to go in front of people and try to make them laugh? What does that look like?
Well, it's changed over time. In the very beginning, I very much like sat down like, all right, let me brainstorm all my thoughts on frozen food, you know what I mean? Or whatever topic. And then I was like trying to find the premise and, so on and so forth. After, I don't know how long, but after some amount of time of doing it that way, what I also would notice is I would write a joke and then in the telling of the joke, you always record your set, at least audio. So I've got my phone on the stool or whatever for voice notes. And I would notice in hearing and listening back to my sets that the joke, without me at home going, I'm going to tweak this line and I'm going to tweak this line, it would sort of morph on its own. Because while you're up there, you're just communicating with these people. And so sometimes you can tell, oh, this, based on their reactions, I can tell this would work with it, and so you're changing it to fit that group. And then some of those changes are changes where you want to keep them. And then the joke just kind of grows. And then there's been times where I look back at or listen back to the first telling of that joke, and I don't even recognize it as the joke that it is now, So that's a cool way for it to happen. And then really you have to go out and do things so that you have things that a point of view about something. Like I found that, if I'm holed up in the pandemic in this apartment, I mean, beyond pandemic stuff, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot like to spur because I'm not like a Seinfeld dude who's going to be like, what about lights? I mean, that's not my thing. So you have to go out and participate in the world and get frustrated, or at least for me anyway, frustrated or pissed off or, some sort of response to something. And then that's usually when I get funny, when I get irritated or mad.
It almost sounds like it's a coping mechanism.
Or depressed. Oh, 100. I mean, that's how it starts when you're young. I mean, that's how you become like a funny kid. It's because, it's not so great over here.
Yeah. And see, this is why I think the comedians and songwriters, I'm a songwriter, we have a lot in common. Like we use our art to deal with all that
Yes,
stuff, right?
your emotions and stuff. Well, I feel like I think they say something. I'm really terrible about what they say, so I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard something about they say like all comedians want to be rock stars and all rock stars want to be comedians. Didn't we talk about this? I think maybe when
I
I
think
met.
we did in person. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to hope that's true because I don't want to be the only comedian, excuse me, who wants to be a rock star. But I mean, if somebody if I didn't have to sell my soul or, eat baby heads and they were like, we can make you the next Britney, I would be like, let's go. Leave the joke telling to these other suckers. I'm about to go on stage as Beyonce.
I feel like there's probably a shorter path to go from comedy to music than there is from music to comedy. I can't imagine myself trying to make people laugh for, well, how long's a normal set? 10 minutes?
No, even when you start, I mean, sometimes you'll only get 3 minutes,
Whoa.
but certainly in the beginning, you want to have 5 minutes. And in the very beginning, like I had 5 minutes and that's what I had, 5 minutes, you know what I mean? So if I was going up 2 times that week, we were doing the same 5 minutes. But then again, like I said, then in your doing of that, you come up with other stuff.
So how much prep time are we talking to build that 5 minutes of material? How many hours of work is that?
Yeah, that's hard to quantify. I mean, for me, because my first 5 minutes evolved out of that class, I was on some sort of rapid, I don't know that if you had just left me on my own and said, go visit some open mics and, try it out, I don't know that I would have come up with my 5 minutes that fast. But when you've got class in a week and you're going to do your in front of and they're going to talk about you, I mean, you get a little nutty. But I mean, I remember during that class, it's so long ago, I had a Dell computer and
That's funny. I am on a Dell computer talking to you right now. No, it's cool. I bought it like last year, but yeah, it's totally a Dell.
Well, I have some, bad juju with Dell. So, you know what I mean? So they're just in my brain. I have to like poke
It's
at
cool.
them. But I had some kind of problems and I had to call for customer support. And this is during the time that I'm very much in the mindset of everything that I do could be material because I'm so desperate for material so that I can go to class with something. That then this guy started pissing me off on the phone and I was getting mad, but then I'd be like, oh, and actually that would be a funny way. And so I'm like, still mad and like writing down, you need to, I think that's kind of when I noticed that people think I'm funny when I'm mad. I always feel a little bad for after you're mad, you feel kind of ugly on the inside, like, oh, that was, and all my friends would be like, that's hilarious. So then I thought, well, maybe this is like a socially acceptable way for me to get out my anger and not have to feel so ugly.
Probably cheaper than seeing a therapist.
Yeah, well, yep. Yep.
So you mentioned Mr. Seinfeld. You're like, what's the deal with that? And you said that is not the kind of comedy you do. So what is the kind of comedy you do? Describe what going to see you is like. I'm not a pro, so I don't know how to describe it. All I know is that you made me laugh and I thought it was great. But
Thanks.
yeah, describe what it is you're trying to do.
Well, I don't know that I wouldn't give myself enough credit to act like it's that intentional, like, oh, I'm setting out to, elicit this, initially. And something I learned from that class, which is, I think, a very good point for a lot of comedians is, to make it personal, because the more personal it is to me, the less likely that someone's going to come up with that joke through parallel thinking or even be able to steal it. If I'm talking about something pretty specific to me, not everyone's going to be able to grab that or whatever. So in the beginning, because, this has now been, it's been 12 years or something. I've grown as a person during that time. So in the beginning of the comedy, I know I did a lot on like anxiety and depression and stuff, because that's like, I was more in that I mean, it's always there at a low level, but it was like more. And I even remember some people being like, "Hey, you found your voice. You'll be the," and I was like, "No, I don't want to be like the mental health comic." You know what I mean? It's just like what I'm going through right now. And then it's morphed since then. Then there was a lot of sort of, I mean, not that I don't do self-deprecating anymore, but I feel like I was a little more self-deprecating there for a while. And then as I did more healing on myself as a person, then I felt like, well, I don't want to be saying, like what you say can sort of manifest. I don't want to be saying negative things about myself repeatedly on a microphone. Then it finds itself into my life and I have no one to blame but me. So now I'm sort of, I'm trying to figure out kind of what the next direction is. I mean, I still relate to all the things I've written about before because they were personal, but I don't know that they 100% reflect my current state, which is, well, some of it does. I think maybe I told that night I did maybe some of my midlife crisis material. that's part of this whole, healing and figuring myself out. So I share the struggle of that on stage and just hope that I'll find my way to my new direction. And now I'm taking dance classes. I'm not kidding.
Well, that's cool.
It's part of the joke, but yeah, I'm just like kind of revisiting, those things that I did when I was younger. I understand the chance for maybe Brittany has passed. But, at least for that hour in that class, I can, live it. And then I don't know, maybe I'll end up writing material about, pulling a groin muscle in dance class. I don't know. All my material will be like, here's how my body's falling apart.
Yeah, I hope there's not too much pain involved in that. It seems like a difficult business, the comedy business. Well, all of the entertainment businesses are probably very hard. What does success look like to you as a professional comic?
Well,
there was the Houston coming out.
Well, because I think I've just sort of surprised myself, but the answer to this would also say that it's, that it's ever changing. Yeah, I mean, certainly in the very, very beginning of any of that stuff, or maybe even before I'm even here in LA, like for most people, it's to be huge, to be famous, to have an HBO special, and that's one of the things that during the pandemic that I sort of was figuring out for myself is that as I healed things, I realized that some of this comedy that I'm doing initially started with my need for external validation. And I don't need that as much. In college and theater, there'd be those students who, even when they weren't in class, were like, pizzazz and da-da-da. They were just on all the time. I'm the theater kid. I'm not like that with my comedy. I'm usually, in real life, I'm going to be funny if, again, I'm irritated or there's like an awkward situation. If there's a long line, I'll probably, start saying things and make the person next to me, laugh or whatever. But I'm not like, hey, here I am, funny girl, gonna say funny things. I'm just gonna be normal and let the funny come. And earlier, I guess we should just, in case there's a problem, we can let the audience know that I had to take a bathroom break and run away. But when I did, we were talking about success.
Yes, I wasn't gonna tell them, by the way, but.
Well, that's another thing that I do with comedy is I just feel like you have to be honest for it to work. So a lot of times when I get up there, if something like just happened, like running to the bathroom or right before I went on stage, I was going to say I farted, but I would never do that. But, if something like that happens, I feel like I have to address it, even if maybe no one even knows. It's something about the honesty thing about comedy, which is actually one of the things I really love about comedy. And that's what helped me heal, is because the more honest I was with myself about things I'd been through or my feelings, that's how like all the healing began, the woo-woo. But back to the success thing, I just wanted to say that it's really interesting that it really has changed, and it's not changed. I knew a version of myself where I would be like, oh, listen to this girl who now success has changed for her and she really doesn't need the HBO special. That's such bullshit. She just can't make it. And, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and I totally get that viewpoint because I'm sure I've had it about many people, but you really can change your perspective. And I wasn't trying to. I just healed to the point where like I would love an HBO special. I would love those things, but I no longer need those things to prove to myself that I'm worthy or valuable or so now I'm really, and with the midlife crisis and all that, I'm really looking more at life in general as acquiring experiences. Like, you only get one shot at the,
Yep.
at least as LeeAnn, I'll only have one shot. So I should be, trying all the things. And so I signed up for the dance class and, and if something happens great with comedy and I buy a mansion in the hills, rock on. But if it doesn't, it's not like, oh, I'm a failure. I'm doing something I really enjoy doing and I'm making people happy while I do it. And I'm living in a place with lots of sunshine, which is really important to me. And it's the little things.
That's awesome. And now I'm going to ask you the two boring questions. Not boring. I'm going to ask you the two questions I ask everyone, but they're kind of one of them's music related. Which even though you're not a musician, music's part of all of our lives.
I love music. Well, I'm dancing, so
yeah. I guess one could dance without music. You could just dance to a click, but that doesn't sound like fun, does it?
It's better with music.
Think back as far as you can remember. What's the first song that you can remember hearing in your entire life?
Well, this isn't really a song, but when I was very, very little, my dad had a record for Star Wars. And before it starts, it's I don't know if it's MGM or whoever, but that dun 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 dun.
One of those California studios.
Stick with the comedy, but it's a little musical jingle that's very recognizable. Everyone would associate it with the movie is about to start. And that sound, I always went running into the other room because that sound meant Star Wars. And then, there's a lot of old music. I remember listening to music at a very young age, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm old, so that would be a long time ago when I was a kid. I know, I think my dad played some Linda Ronstadt, so I probably heard some of that. A lot of times my dad and I, we would hear, we would listen to music in the car. We loved to talk. We always talked about music. I remember I got the Blondie album.
Oh, nice.
Grease, who doesn't want to be Olivia Newton-John and,
I never did, but.
Did you want to be and now also, I'm sure, if you watch that now, like, wow, there's some dirty shit in there that I did not catch at all.
I have actually never seen Grease.
Really?
I'm a middle-aged man that has never seen Grease.
It won't have the same impact. You could watch it now, but it's going to be like a laughable, it had to be part of when you were a kid or whatever. But good songs, or, at least. I'm trying to remember because I would just like flip through all my dad's albums. I remember like laying up because, back in the day, like the albums, you could like open them up. They might have pictures. You could be listening to the album and just like checking out everything on the cover and who they dedicated it to. And, I had my first sort of sexy time dream. Like when the radio's on while you're asleep and then the radio the song climbs into your dream. It was Sexual Healing. Who is that? Marvin Gaye?
I believe so.
Yeah. Sexual Healing.
And I voice.
I was very young and I was having a dream that I was on my honeymoon. And a Hawaiian man, because apparently in my dreams, Marvin Gaye translated to Hawaiian. Lured me away from my husband.
That sounds like a movie plot.
And I guess he did so by singing Sexual Healing. That's really probably the only time I even thought about. I was not like a little girl that thought about getting married or her wedding day or anything like that. So it's actually kind of funny that dream would even be about that, and I would be adulterous and on the first, on the honeymoon.
I guess that means the song was well written if it's gonna spark that kind of subconscious reaction, right?
Yeah, seriously. In a young girl who doesn't know anything about marriage or sexual healing at that point.
Next question. What did your childhood smell like?
Ugh,
Oh,
dysfunction.
that's nice.
Is there a smell for dysfunction? Yeah, it was a challenging childhood. I'm sure that that's not, I've not done a study, but I'm sure that that's a pretty common thread for a lot of comics. Comedy is tragedy or whatever they say. So, my parents divorced when I was very young. When they divorced, my brother was not even a year old. There was so a lot of responsibility on me and other factors that I might talk more freely about when they're dead. But my parents are currently still living and quite old, and I don't want to hurt them. But it was a difficult childhood. There were some struggles. There's certainly been worse. So I've never been like, oh, poor me. But just in terms of like, yeah, I think that's how I became sort of like you said, a coping mechanism. I used it to, get out my anger, which there was a lot more anger when I was younger. I'm a lot more chill now. I was a little bit hell on wheels for a while there, but I was responding to the environment.
And I think LA might make people chill. Just the people I've met out there are not nearly as wound up as I am. And I'm like, I think it must be living out here does that to people.
Well, maybe you're also like visiting the right people here,
That could be.
because I'm sure there's some real type A, go attack the world kind of. I mean, again, I think that has to do with healing because that's really who I was. I was like, I thought like, I'm a go getter. I just get it done. And it's like, no, honey, you were living in fight or flight for like decades. So, you don't have to produce or create or make money to be valuable. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of that was, I do all the things and I do them right and I do them great and I make A's and then I matter, you know what I mean? And then like it's really taken far longer than it should have, but I finally got to a point where I'm like, I matter even if I take a nap. Oh. I matter even if I take a nap.
I relate to that more than you could possibly know. So yeah, type A, that's totally me.
And you think it's a fight or flight?
I have learned that as I've grown up, that things that I cared a lot about really didn't matter as much as I thought they did.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably.
Because it was serving some other purpose that was like a subconscious purpose.
I wish I'd figured that out earlier. Like with more youthful energy that I could do something with,
I hear you, dude. I hear you so hard. I do. But that's however we each figure ourselves out and learn it in whatever timing is the timing it was supposed to happen. And that's another thing I'm trying to learn is that I don't have to try to make everything happen. I can just like try to find the flow and just go with the flow instead of like, but I mean, from that struggling like childhood point, I did have to make it happen. So that did serve me at some point. You know what I mean? It was all on me for this or, that or whatever, but things are different.
That's good. So I want people to be able to find you on the internet and if they live in California, go see your shows. Where do we send people so that they can follow you and learn about the greatness that is LeeAnn Tooker?
Follow me, find me, like me, love me. I'll like you back. I'll follow you back, please. All my stuff or most of my stuff should be my name, which is LeeAnn, LeeAnn, last name Tooker, Tooker, kind of like hooker, but with a T. Probably if you spelled LeeAnn wrong, but you got Tooker right, you could probably still find my stuff. I'm on all the social media. I'm on TikTok. I'm sort of new to it. I'm not posting all the time. So if you wanted to hop on there and give me some love, that would be really cool. And my website's LeeAnnTooker.com. And I do have an album and I do have a book, both of which you can find more information about on my website or any of my socials. So I'd love for you to, download the album or buy the book or support live comedy, come out to a show.
Yeah. I know a lot of people probably don't think about it this way, but independent comics are like independent musicians. No label behind you. You're
Doing
making
it
art,
all.
making an art because you love it. And if there is a comic community where you live, dear listener, man, make an effort to see who's in it and go see people. You will not. It's a nice night out. I had a nice night out at the comic show when I was in LA, and that's how I met LeeAnn. So thank you very much for taking time out of your busy California schedule to talk to me. You're pretty awesome, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I didn't mind taking a break from healing so that I could be with you. No, I love it. Thank you so much for asking me. I do remember meeting you that night, and that was a good night. That was a fun night at Ribs. That was near the end there, right?
Yeah. I've seen from a distance that it is gone now.
Yeah.
I hope that community finds another spot.
Oh, they will. Yeah. We're talking, and just for the listener, we're talking about Oh My Ribs theater, and they still have social media because, as we say, they're going to find another venue and do other, they might do some touring type stuff, which would be cool. I might be involved in something like that. So follow Oh My Ribs also. And that is where we met.
It is. Thanks once again to LeeAnn Tooker for spending some time with me. Thank you, dear listener, for being here. You get a chance, check out her website, check out LeeAnn's socials. She's written a book. She has an album out on Apple. Really, let's support independent comics the way we support independent music, if we can. This is the second of 3 episodes you're getting from me this week. On tomorrow's episode to close out the week, you get another person who lives in Los Angeles, but not a comedian. Come on back tomorrow and see who it is. Thanks.